Hello and welcome to another episode of Around the Verse. I'm Eric Kyron Davis.
And I'm Dave Haddock.
This week we're going to take a look at the design and implementation of ship scanning and radar systems and go to Jared for some details on the Aegis Eclipse.
That's right. But first let's check in with Phil Meller for our monthly Squadron 42 project update.
Thanks guys, hello and welcome to another Squadron 42 update. The weapon system has been receiving an overhaul and right now a lot of attention is being put on recoil. Weapon feel is of course incredibly important in any FPS experience, and Squadron 42 features a lot of on-foot shooting sequences where this new recoil will be seen a lot. So a ton of work goes into a seemingly small part of the overall package that a lot of everyday players may even take for granted. This started out as an animation in Maya, focusing on the Bearing P8 assault rifle as a starting point for the visual goal for animation. The variations and randomness are added to each shot, the amount the weapon kicks back, the horizontal and vertical movements of the weapon. This new system allows us to define a base recoil for each weapon, but the player affects it depending on their position, their state and other stats. As you can see, a lot more customization goes into this than you might think. Ship AI continues to come along with recent focus being put on smoothing out takeoffs and landings on the Idris, creating some canned flight formations to make designers' lives a little bit easier. A lot of progress has been made in this last area as we determine just how AI prioritizes targets based on threat level, chance and personal character bias. The ship AI teams also continue to iterate on fighter and gunship behavior with constant feedback from QA, along with a lot of back-end improvements helping us steadily improve ship combat in general. Also in the works is Odin's system Scaping. Part of our recent focus on S42 development has been working on our space scene overworld, or as we call it within the project, our Spacescape. Through development on the coil, the engineers have been busy building the amazing gas cloud tech. But it isn't just confined to the mysterious coil. It's also been used throughout the campaign to create nebula and other pockets of interest in space. We can use this as a tool to drive the narrative forward in particular areas and build areas in space much like a conventional interior level. Controlling color, density and the style of simulation could add a huge amount of potential variety to the Spacescape. From angry, aggressive simulations like the coil to softer, more serene bodies of gas just floating in space. This gives both art and design a great amount of scope to make our space scenes look amazing and convey a message or mood to the player. From a design standpoint, we aim to strike a balance between plausibility, reality and cool looking visuals. This tech, once perfected here in Squadron 42, will also be applied to various systems in Star Citizen's PU. The prop team continues to turn out control room sets for Chemline, with even more computers, screens and other monitoring gauges filling out the pieces. To really sell the abandoned vibe, we have done a damaged pass creating damaged variants of each asset, adding flexibility and reuse to the set. Work has started on scrap piles for an upcoming location. We can't go into too many details, but we are in early days on building out the texture set and geometry. Visual targets are now being built up on Chemline, along with several other S42 locations, with full concept art support to provide direction for the art and design team. Ship emergency and distress states are being iterated on and polished, with critically damaged ships still in space environments now looking suitably beaten up. This is separate to the fully destroyed versions that have previously been seen crashed on planets. Work continues on the Bengal carrier as well, with new locations being built out in near final states. These include a brig that, although visually different as you would expect from a different manufacturer, still echoes the functionality of the Idris. Because, at the end of the day, a brig is a brig. The animation team have been working towards getting variations into the NPC combat sets. Alongside the trained mercenary sets, we have been developing out the visual language for the untrained NPCs. The trained combatants will be confident in their actions, decisive, and a much more difficult archetype to kill. The untrained sets will be more skittish and wild in their actions. With this in mind, we've been paying particular focus to how the different groups interact with the cover objects. As an example of this, the trained military sets will switch hands when entering the left side of cover, whereas untrained NPCs will remain right-handed. This allows the trained set to be more concealed when stepping out and firing versus the more wild and disciplined untrained set. There are also stark differences in the firing stances that the trained military will take versus their civilian counterparts. Details like these are what we aim to deliver to give a fully fleshed out variety and believability to both friendly and enemy AI sets for Squadron 42 and Star Citizen. We're currently still in an implementation stage as we continue to expand the AI combat behaviors. As we lock down all the technical details more, we'll take another animation pass to really tighten up the visuals on all the combat assets. The character art team are creating additional hero costumes for our major characters such as Graves, played by John Rhys-Davies. A lot of effort goes into the styling of S-42's characters to infer their personality and history. Graves' jacket is from his old days when he was part of the 118th Squadron, button-up shirt, work pants and heavy boots, painting the picture of a professional manager of security who works on a rugged mining base. And our artists have even added an extra little weight to this once trim Navy pilot, I know that feeling, to emphasize his advancing years. So that's it for this month. We'll see you in June for another S-42 update. Now back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Phil. An advantage of developing Squadron 42 alongside Star Citizen is that many features and mechanics can be shared, which we saw with a few of the items covered in this update.
That's right. And one of the features that we'll be factoring into both games very soon are the shipboard scanning and radar systems.
Yes, a lot of the early focus for these mechanics relates to the MISC, Prospector, and Mining, with that feature right around the corner in the PU. But eventually, all ships will have scanning functionality, including those highlighted in Squadron 42.
Let's learn more from the designers themselves in this week's feature.
Today we're going to be talking about some improvements we've made to the radar system regarding two adjoining systems, specifically our ping system and our scanning system. Right now in the game you can see active targets that are within what we're calling our passive radar range. So that's your normal radar. What we wanted to do though is because the distances are so vast, I want to give you a way to get some info about things that weren't within your passive radar range. One way we incorporate that is by introducing a ping mechanic. So when you do a ping, it sends out a wave that is larger than your passive radar radius, and it returns to you the signal values of items that are outside of that range and within this larger ping range. Entities are, you'll, I'm sure, discover that whether they're friendly or not by whether they turn and fire at you, or whether they stay stationary, or whether you're able to interact with them. And then as you fly up to them, holding your cursor over them will eventually give you some information that's important about that ship. So things like a ship owner, faction, what ship type it is. Then we're going to be expanding that gameplay after this first tier of implementation. So we can do things like you should be able to scan like the crew manifest. How many crew members are on board? What cargo do they have? Are they worth commandeering? Do you want to take them out, take their cargo? Are they some kind of are they faction based? Do I really want to attack them and upset a particular faction? So you can make decisions about that.
The cool thing is the way that we design this whole infrastructure is if we have a vehicle, we could provide 4 bits of surface information on that. Its name, its health, its status, and its faction. And then as you scan further into the detailed scan, you can uncover the crew, their health, you can uncover sub-items, you could uncover cargo, and you could build it in this big manifest. And then with this manifest, you could store it for later, and maybe in the future, who knows, maybe for information running, you could package this information up and then sell it if you'd like. And that idea is that you could send out a big wave of mystery energy game logic. It sends out a big pulse, and you light up like a Christmas ball, so it's kind of a dangerous thing to do. It's not dangerous to use the radar, but it's dangerous to use the ping because you've now shown the world where you are. It's also good for stealth gameplay. Since everything's based on how much power you're using and how much energy is getting turned to your, we call it heat or infrared. If you throttle your settings down so they're not consuming as much power and they're not generating as much heat, your radar signature goes down. Because it goes down, people aren't able to detect you at as greater distances. So if you turn it all the way down, you could go under the cover of people's radar. But you're limiting yourself. You're throttling all your power down, your shields might be down, your weapons might not be powerful. So if someone sends out that ping pulse wave and detects you, they could go immediately fly over there and start dropping all sorts of lasers on you before you have a chance. However, since he lit up like a light bulb, you know, hey, there's someone out there. I don't know if he found me, but he's searching. So it gives that interesting gameplay where the predator is searching for the prey, and the prey doesn't know if he should run or fight, type of deal.
Scanning may not be the friendliest action in the world, and so as you do go up to a ship and then you scan them, you know, the entire crew should be alerted, hey, you're being actively scanned. So what you do from that point can be up to you. Is this an aggressive action? Are they friendly? You know, why the heck are they scanning me? If they're looking over my cargo, then we can incorporate gameplay where you get informed of that, and then you can take evasive action, you can counterattack them. In the PU, radar and scanning are also used for mining.
Right now, radar finds only mineable rocks. We artificially added some non-mineable rocks in the mix just to create a bit of element of, do I find it, do I not find it? But this is only for longer distance. As you get closer, the radar will be able to better understand if it's a mineable or not a mineable, and to eliminate the ones that are not mineable. You don't have to scan it until you get close. So you already know you have a mineable rock when you're pretty much in visual range. And at that point, it's just about finding out how good of a mineable rock is. Is there something super valuable in there, or is it just something that you work for 1 hour and get just pennies for it? Radar was mainly used to find in order to find objects in the universe, whether they're a hidden thing that players have to find, or a ship, or a wreck, or something like this. And scanning is the finding of details of what that object is made of, what the components are.
So you do your ping, find out where generally where things are. You fly up to them. As you get close enough to them, so that they're in your passive radar range, and so they're now active entities. If you fly up to them close enough, in this case we have the prospector working this way. You can go up to it. You'll switch to your mining UI, and then as you hover your cursor, your flight cursor, over this mining resource target, over time there'll be a little indicator that shows you what percentage that scanning ability is at, and as you progress through the scanning indicator, it'll eventually give you exactly what the resources available in that mining entity are. So that'll give you an idea of, hey, this is worth mining, or you know what, this isn't exactly what I was looking for, let's go find other targets. When you get to that point, do another ping, get some more general information about where things are around you, and then start heading off toward those targets.
I know the mission guys are really excited. They want to start using this post 3.2, because 3.2 is all gonna focus on the mining aspect. But after that, we want to start opening it up to all the ships other than the prospector to use it in the general scanning, so you can start scanning whatever you want.
Really cool stuff, guys. As you can see, the functionality currently being fine-tuned for mining will have various uses when it's applied to different ships and situations.
Yeah, and in Squadron 42, radar is factoring into missions and situations in fun ways, adding realism and elements of flight simulation to the proceeding.
Yeah, and while we're on the subject of radar, a certain ship planned for Alpha 3.2 release is particularly adept at flying under it.
That's right. Let's go to Jared right now for a new installment of ShipShape exploring the stealthy Aegis Eclipse.
Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another edition of ShipShape. We take a look at what's on the ship pipeline, who's working on what, provide interviews with developers, and continue with our brand new bi-weekly cadence that means smaller but more frequent updates. I'm your host, Content Manager Jared Huckabee. Now on the show this week, we'll be sitting down with some of the team members working to bring the stealthy Aegis Eclipse to life in the upcoming Star Citizen Alpha 3.2. Let's check in on the progress of this torpedo-delivering dynamo now.
So the inspiration for the Eclipse has been primarily things like the B-2 stealth bomber. It's like a flying wing. It's designed to be this like stealthy, secretive capital ship killer. Its role is to kind of fly into the battle, fire some giant torpedoes, hopefully try and take down the capital ships, and then fly away intact. It's based around Aegis, so there's a lot more angles, a lot more fillets and soft curves. looked at things like the Sabre Raven and tried to kind of complement things like the holes in the wings, so you can see the same kind of design being implemented within the Eclipse. It's just a single-seat spaceship. It's just a cockpit and an exterior and a lot of torpedo bay. The interior of the cockpit's very utilitarian. It's has a lot of quite heavy technical cladding almost. When you get inside this thing, you feel like you're kind of a small part of this, like, you know, really complicated bomber, really. Climbing into these things is almost a bit of a challenge in itself. I think when you actually get inside the cockpit for the Eclipse, you feel very encompassed by it. When the canopy closes around you and the computers come towards you, you feel like you're sat in a bomber. The Eclipse has 3 different modes, essentially. It's going to have there's not code support for it yet, but the intention will be that it has obviously an atmospheric mode where all the wings fold back and the fins fold up, and it kind of transforms into this like really quite agile shape. And the space mode is the kind of the typical triangular shape of the B2 that you'd normally see, but also has quite an interesting landing mode as well. When the Eclipse comes into land, all the wings fold upwards, and when the canopy opens, it kind of forms a shape which is quite almost beak-like. If you look at the shape of the B2 airplane, it's kind of based around like birds of prey. I think it's based upon a falcon, and it has, you know, if you look at the side profile, it has quite an avian feel to it. So we kind of tried to kind of replicate that on the Eclipse to a degree. You know, as wide as 2 to 3 Gladiuses, it's a wide ship. I think it's as wide as it is long, if not wider. So yeah, I think if it's flying overhead and you've got a keen eye, you'll definitely see it. But I think by the time that you've seen it, it'll be too late and it'll already wiped you out. I think primarily when I was building the Eclipse, I wanted to try and focus upon the animations. I wanted all of the ships to just feel very technically intricate. So from the way the cockpit opens and the ladder folds out to the way the torpedo bay delivers its payload. If you look at the way the torpedo bay, like, it delivers missiles and it has this kind of almost cylindrical delivery system inside it, which is quite complicated. So the actual torpedoes themselves get lowered just below the ship by this quite complicated mechanical arm, and once they're below the ship there, then they have like a forward-firing motion.
So right now, this is still probably the biggest issue that we have with the Eclipse at the moment, is that this is a new kind of torpedo launcher. Like, in terms of animation on how it works, this is something that wasn't exactly how it was in the game before. Like, for the retaliator, it's basically one torpedo on each launcher. It's like several torpedoes like this, whereas for this one, it's a torpedo launcher, and basically it can choose a torpedo, so and put it in the middle. Hopefully in the future you should be able to equip different torpedoes and choose the order where you're firing the torpedo. Like, you could get a regular torpedo in the middle, like a different torpedo on the left and a different torpedo on the right, and say after firing this torpedo I want to fire the left or the right, whereas usually it would be torpedo 1, torpedo 2, torpedo 3, so, but maybe you could say, oh yeah, I want torpedo 1 first and then torpedo 3, but not torpedo 2 second. So even if it seems like a relatively simple ship, the torpedo launcher is a bit more complicated than other systems before.
The landing gear is quite intricate too. So when this thing moves and transforms, it feels just very technical compared to some of the other ships. But I think if you look at it when it's transforming, the entire thing just feels alive. So it's got all this cool bells and whistles, and that the fans will see this and think, oh, you know, it's a cool piece of kit. Like, it all moves. Like, it's, you know, it's going to feel badass. It has very minimal armaments in terms of the weaponry it uses. The entire ship is basically just 3 giant torpedoes. I think it uses size 9 torpedoes, so it's quite big missiles. The same size as what's used on the Retaliator. So if you actually look at the size of the torpedoes compared to the ship itself, they're almost as long as the spaceship is. And it's got 3 of these, so it's going to be, I think, quite a force to be reckoned with. The whole point of this thing is that it's probably part of a convoy. So when you're flying along, you'll have your escort with you, have, you know, other fighters around to protect you, and you have one sole mission, which is to you know, fly to your destination and just deliver these size 9 torpedoes to just wreak maximum havoc. You need your friends around you really to give you kind of the ample protection to make sure that if other like fighters try and destroy your ship, that you have people to defend you. So it kind of almost welcomes a team play element to it, because you need this protection to be able to deliver the missiles. I think if you just flew this ship to a capital ship on your own and had, say the Idris has fighters around it and they see you, you wouldn't stand a chance. If you look at the exterior of the ship, it's quite dark. It's all very kind of matte paints, just very kind of dark color schemes. But we wanted to kind of contrast this with having the interior of the ship, having this quite bright white paint. Anywhere the ship opens up, really, is white inside. Obviously excluding the cockpit, because if you're flying through space with a giant bright white cockpit, then people are going to see you coming. A couple of ballistic weapons. It has a couple of smaller, I think size 2 or size 3 guns. But primarily the big focus of this ship is just the torpedoes. The fact that it has 3 size 9 torpedoes kind of speaks for itself. So when you buy this thing, you know what you're getting into. There's no misconceptions of what this thing is. It's a bomber, straight and simple. It's going to wreak havoc, destroy everything.
We made sure that the Eclipse could fit in an Idris as well. So this is an important one. So this is something, if you have the wings deployed, you won't be able to go in an Idris. So you need to get into the landing mode, which basically will collapse the wingtips. We will be like this, the landing gear goes there, and basically you can still fly and land in an Idris. So this is important as well, obviously, because if you get an Idris, you can use it as a mobile base, go somewhere, then deploy some Eclipse, do some reconnaissance work or do some attacks, and obviously use the Idris to keep enemies at bay. I think the flying wing design is pretty interesting as well in terms of shape, and in terms of maneuverability. It should be a bit different since it's really flat. The design in atmosphere, it won't behave like the Sabre, for example, or some ships that are relatively the same size. Aegis Eclipse is a stealth bomber that will be really useful for groups of players, I think, especially because it can act both as a reconnaissance ship, because it's stealthy, it's relatively fast as well for a bomber, and if needed can destroy something, but it can also be used as a support role, like if you have some fighters that are already there, like trying to harass or destroy a big ship like a Staffer or a Reclaimer. You can come in, fire your torpedoes, do massive damage, then come back, refuel, rearm, then do the same again.
Having these niche roles really adds to the gameplay. I think if you had, every ship could do every type of combat and could mine and could do everything, build bases, then suddenly you end up with a lot of ships which basically just exactly the same with no kind of defining characteristics. So I think it's important to have a range of vehicles which deliver different types of user experiences, and also things that kind of encourage teamwork and collaboration. It's kind of go out and bomb a mission with your friends. When someone's in trouble, or you've seen that there's some kind of capital ship in the system that you need to take care of, but you don't kind of get your friends together and say, look guys, we need to try and take this down. It's just a fun thing to do.
Once upon a time I was falling in love. Now I'm only getting torpedoes shot at my javelin. There's nothing I can do. It's a total eclipse of my ship. No worry about YouTube content ID match on that one, huh? The Aegis Eclipse is making its way towards release into the upcoming Star Citizen Alpha 3.2. As for other ships in the pipeline, we can see that the Anvil Hurricane, the Vandal Blade, and the Aegis Avenger variants are all in the flight prep phase, getting ready to join the Eclipse, while the Origin 600i is currently in final art review. But don't worry, I hear there are designers and engineers already getting ahead on their flight prep work to make its scheduled 3.2 release. With these 5 different ships coming online at the end of June, they're pretty much the focus of most of the ship art and tech teams at the moment. But once they make it into your hands, a brand new wave of ships will begin making their way towards release in subsequent patches. We'll have more about those ships in the coming months. For ShipShape, I'm Content Manager Jared Huckabee. We'll see you in about 2 weeks, everybody.
Thanks, Jared. That ship will make a deadly addition to many fleets out there once 3.2 hits the PU. And for those of you who would prefer an in-your-face dogfighting to sneaky surprises, we still have a contest for Arena Commander and Star Marine aficionados.
You can make your own tutorial video for either of those modes and compete to win prizes and have your work up on the official Star Citizen website.
Yes, and then tune in to Reverse the Verse live on Twitch tomorrow at noon for our monthly subscriber town hall episode.
Jared will be back with Kirk Tome and Mark Abent answering subscriber questions, following up on today's scanning feature. So make sure you get your questions in.
Yes, and make sure you check out this week's Calling All Devs if you missed it on Monday for answers to questions about dirty ships, UI updates, and more.
Thanks, of course, to all our subscribers for sponsoring the shows.
And thank you to all of our backers for making the development of Squadron 42 and Star Citizen a reality. Until next time, we'll see you around the verse.
Thanks for watching. For the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42, you can subscribe to our channel, or you can check out some of the other shows, and you can also head to our website at www.robertspaceindustries.com. Thank you very much for watching.